Alright, so this is going to be a super quick, janky overview of how to make a weird, fancy, metallic wallpaper kind of texture over top of cracking stucco. What I'm going to go ahead and do is first start by looking up some images of black and white textures online that are tileable that I can use. And of course you could make your own, you could do stripes, you could do whatever you want, but I'm just grabbing some random quick thing for a demo. I also was not paying attention to usage rights for this because it was just for an example. This video is kind of unplanned. Anywho, so I found this one. It has some weird watermarks, but I basically just, made a new Photoshop file, chucked that photo in, and then I just sort of shrunk it down and tiled that a little bit so that it fit, and then I just sort of, got rid of the watermark that way a little bit and duplicated this, and like I said, because it tiles, we have now a giant seamless texture that is 2K, which is kind of great for this. So what I'm doing now is basically just recoloring this, where I wanted a purple background, and then I just selected the, with a select color range, I selected the black parts of the squiggles, turned them orange, because I wanted them to be kind of like a weird metallic vibe to that. I then went in, grouped those together, and just masked off the areas where I did not want wallpaper and where I did, and then I tried, maybe to make that edge look a little bit less crappy. Not gonna say I did a great job with that, but I tried, sort of. So now I'm just going in and blocking in the stucco, pretty much the same thing that I did in some of my other videos. I just made a solid background, came in with a goofy brush, and just added a little bit of like splotchy mottled variation just for a little bit of visual interest so it wasn't super just bland tan. I also tried to go in and add some like drippy watermarks. Not super sure if these came out really great, to be honest. Looking at reference would have helped. Better graphics and drawing would have helped. And then here, I wanted to try to illustrate what happens if you do a bad job of using a bump map to do really deep details, where I was trying to get the vibe of like a really deep chunk missing from the wall. Spoiler alert, it doesn't look good in the final one, but here I'm trying to draw in manually some of the dark shadowing for that, so that the color channel is sort of helping the bump map as much as it can, because the bump map is not designed for that, and I just wanted to give an example of trashy stuff that doesn't look good. Play again with my borders, deciding I don't like what I'm doing, and then I'm just going to go ahead and save out this color file, and then plop that into Maya, just to see how that looks on my sphere. Once again, just rotating this until it's a position that I think is a little bit more interesting, and then I'm going to group all of those things, call it color channel, duplicate that, and just start working on my other channels based on that. So the nice thing about this is I can basically come through and just very easily recolor all the pieces. So for metalness, I wanted those like little squiggles to be a sort of foil. That's the only thing metal in this, everything else just becomes black. So that was a fairly straightforward mask to generate since I had the foil already sort of masked off. And you can see here that now we have some sort of shiny little metal bits in that area over there. So I'm gonna do basically the same thing, but redoing the bump, or with the bump map, where the foil bits are gonna be the tallest portion of the map, so they are going to be white and raised. The wallpaper is going to be slightly raised, so that is a gray that is somewhere above 50%. I'm not being terribly careful with these values. Kind of ends up looking a little weird because of that. And then the deep crack is going to be as black as I can possibly make it to try to make it as dented as possible, whereas the stucco, I'm just sort of applying a somewhat random gray color that is somewhere in the vicinity of 50% gray. In this, I actually did sort of duplicate the cracks again to try to add some vague finesse to that. Like I said, they end up looking really bad, but I think it's also good to show you what really bad bump maps look like, so, whatever. I popped a quick random noise on that just to also maybe try to give it a little bit more interesting cracky variation. And I just went in and tried to, mask some stuff off. I don't know, I'm just kind of noodling around with this. There was nothing really, planned or intentional about this. I don't know, what the heck am I even doing here? Oh yes, I'm adding, for the bump map, I'm adding a noise texture to the background so that the stucco is slightly lumpy overall. And I really do like noise filters in Photoshop for doing stuff like that. They're pretty convenient for just like, I need lumpy bricks, go. So you can see the subtle texture from that. And then you can also see how, again, so we have like raised wallpaper, probably a little too thick with some raised metal bits on it, definitely too thick looking. And you'll notice that the what the heck is it called? The large bump area that I was doing, big crack in the stucco, barely shows up at all. It looks pretty trashy. So once again, gonna go through, do pretty much the exact same thing I did before, where I copy my materials, and then just decide that the stucco should be very, very rough, so I just gave that a value of white. And then I just sort of modified the wallpaper so it was a little bit shiny, decided that was probably significantly too shiny, and then modified the values a little bit more to make that slightly rougher. Because like I said, not super in love with like the chromed out purple wallpaper. That's a little weird looking. Anywho, basically just sort of more or less updating my maps and just sort of continuing to work on the roughness channel. Also, please note that that crack thing in the front is really terrible looking. It is not only pixelated, but it is a very uniform thickness with rounded corners, which is really unnatural. So here, I'm just twiddling a little bit with the lighting to try to get something that I think shows off the textures a little bit better. The size, scale, and whatever of the particular wallpaper pattern that I chose was a little bit hard to capture in a way that I felt satisfied with. But I did notice that if you put a blue rim light on this 3-point light setup, it kind of like raked across the surface and like caught only the metal areas and kind of like made this interesting blue squiggle, which I thought was kind of cool. So again, basically just kept fiddling with the lights until it was something that I was kind of happy with. This one I think took me a little bit longer to light than some of the other ones did. And I'm still just kind of fiddling around with the lighting, you know, doing that. I redid a bunch of stuff like numerous times because I'm a spaz, idling. And then after this, so I think I'm just going to stop talking because now I'm just rambling like a crazy person. But after this, when I was done with the lighting, I basically just went through and on video showed the process of basically assigning a new material and just rendering out each individual map. So bump map only, normal map only, all of that stuff. I don't have a normal map on this. Like bump map only, roughness only, metalness only. Just so it's an interesting way to sort of visualize the different textures. So like this is the color only. And then for some of the stuff like metalness and roughness, I might go in and change the color and roughness just so it's a little bit more obvious what's going on. So like I think this is roughness, and for some reason to my eyes this is easier to see on like a darker background. Whereas like a black metalness map is really hard to see, so I usually I think would make those white. And that would kind of show up a little bit better. Like you can see that, I don't know, to me that's more visible with the whiter metal texture. Looks like we are talking to the end, but I think that was pretty much it. So hopefully that was vaguely helpful to somebody. Enjoy my terrible texturing and have a great day.